The beginnings of the MMO genre can easily be traced back to classic role-playing games, and what better place to observe that than the SNES era, the era of the all-time greats. While the ordering is completely subjective and in no particular order, the group as 5 I feel best represent the biggest milestones leading to the games we play today. Let's start with number 5, The Secret of Mana. Released August 6, 1993, The Secret of Mana featured real-time battles. In other words, instead of cycling through each character for their input, each character instead moves at their own steady pace. Granted, many of the early real-time battles are effectively turn-based, but it still leads to a more action-packed experience, if only a placebo effect. In addition, there is a ring command system, which will pause the action, allowing crucial time for tactical decision-making. Also innovative is the cooperative multiplayer, allowing friends to jump in and out whenever they feel like. However, if you simply wanted a solo experience, the AI companions could be customized and tailored to a specific playstyle. Adventuring through the bright and colorful world would take you to the far reaches of the map, namely through the very popular Mode 7. Along the way, meet companions, notable characters, and visit mana temples to power your sword. While you're out and about, a big bad rises to the scene. Striking him down is no easy task, but with superior tactics and experience, the hero will eventually prevail, returning the world back to peace. Despite the robustness of the game at hand, it was actually supposed to be significantly bigger, with multiple paths to complete the game along with numerous unique endings. It was so catastrophic that the future of Square's development decisions after this point moved to the PlayStation consoles as opposed to the Nintendo ones. The Secret of Mana brought to the scene more fluid active time battles, which is pretty much what every MMO uses, even if not in name, and also they brought multiplayer co-op for an RPG. While it has been done before, there's just something so visceral about exploring a bright, colorful, experience-filled world with friends along a relatively strict narrative, which would become main storyline missions in MMORPGs today. Number 4, Super Mario RPG. Early 1996 came The Legend of the Seven Stars, an RPG produced by none other than Shigeru Miyamoto. The accompanied combat was actually quite simple for the time. As it was developed by Square, it's no surprise there are similarities. Except for one key factor that would become a mainstay of both RPGs in general, and especially further Mario RPG titles: timing-based attack augmentations. In other words, press a button at the right time during an attack for additional damage. It's effective in keeping the player engaged in combat, with rewards based on skill as opposed to mashing a single button to basic attack with all the characters. In addition to having party members like Bowser, the player is treated to a world of homages and nods from the series this game was built on. Expect to see punch blocks, Koopas, and annoying toads. Story-wise, Mario and pals must take down Smithy, whom has stolen pieces of the Star Road cherished by the world's people. Along the way of putting everything back in its place, collect the star pieces, meet, and solve everyone's problems. Super Mario RPG is namely on this list for one of three things. First and foremost, as you might have guessed, is the action-oriented, but still turn-based combat. This is a fantastic twist on mechanics, and something many MMOs do today. The second is both immediately obvious and not really at the same time. Simply put, the branding and theme, meaning the Mario skin on this otherwise not especially Mario-esque kind of game. Licensing deals have pretty much become the norm these days. In fact, go back through this channel's uploads and spot how many are simply regular titles with the brand's iconic theme on it. It's not a bad thing by any means, but Mario RPG was one of the bigger RPG titles that started the trend. Thirdly, and this is mostly for the RPG genre and not others, but exploring the world in a more engaging way. Since this game was built on Mario, you must of course have jumping all over the place. Navigating the world has become an experience in itself, and that is awesome. Number 3, Final Fantasy VI. Also developed and published by Square in 1994, Final Fantasy VI is the last bastion of an era gone by. Synonymous with this era was a simple but masterful execution of an active turn-based battle system. This system, introduced 2 games previous, would continue to be used in both future games and the RPG/MMO genre as a whole. The coolest combat aspect, in my opinion, is set up even before you set foot in battle. The customization. Take with you relics, or in other words accessories, to increase stats and even obtain unique abilities. Relics could alter battle commands, weapon usage, status changes, or generally affect combat like putting up shields in extreme situations. Also equipped are Magasites, which is a sort of separate leveling system parallel to your character's traditional level. With Magasite, any character could use magic, summon monsters, and gain additional stats. Now, the story is such an incredible beast, I don't want to get too deep into this for fear of never getting out. Essentially, people across the world love Final Fantasy VI not for its combat, but for its phenomenal story and character development. Final Fantasy VI told the world that the plot could and was necessary to make a truly great role-playing game, and something that would carry on across multiple genres, including the massive multiplayer ones. Number 2, Earthbound. In 1994, this title, otherwise known as Mother 2, would see Nest and company seeking to take down the alien Gyarados. Out of every game on this list, Earthbound is by far the most simple in terms of gameplay and even exploration. But that doesn't stop it from being a cult classic adored by fans everywhere. Along with the aforementioned Mario RPG, Earthbound chooses not to use random encounters. It's crazy to think that something so commonplace today was so innovative back then. In accordance, battles could be leveraged based on where the enemy made contact. For example, a bag attack would allow the aggressor a free hit. Also cool is how dynamic the enemies would react based on the player's level. For example, a high enough level could make the enemies flee or even skip the battle entirely. To stop Gyarados, the player travels the world in search of melodies. Along the way, experience dense character storylines and towns filled to the brim with interesting interactions. Earthbound especially resonates with me because of that. In fact, I kinda hate the battling system, but the dialogue across the game and therein more than makes up for it. Although it can be said that a lot of the battling is alleviated with the said dialogue and just downright silly enemies and situations. Along with the relatively normal aspects like no random encounters, great dialogue, and a cool story, Earthbound transcends through the willingness to be different, to have a distinct quirkiness for bucking the trend. Generally, Mother 2 may fade over time, but its impact on the more human-like interaction between the characters will not be soon forgotten. Number 1, Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is the pinnacle and cultivation of everything already mentioned. No random encounters and the active time battle being the main ones for combat. And we don't cut to another screen either. Everything takes place right where the encounter happened. The lasting impression over the rest, however, is probably the tech system. Namely, being able to dynamically combine multiple character skills to create a new, much more powerful move. Outside of combat, travel both in time and place, with a staggering amount to explore and experience with the differences based on previous actions. For example, did you know Chrono Trigger is one of the first games to have a morality system? Now don't get me wrong, it wasn't as robust as something like Fable or even Fallout, but the fact that the player could be judged based on past actions was simply mind-blowing at the time. And the innovation doesn't stop there. In addition to over a dozen endings based on multitude of factors, the player could face the endgame boss relatively whenever they felt like, even if destruction was absolutely assured. Along a similar line, New Game Plus was introduced here, the option to go back and play again over a same save file for a new way to play. It's, needless to say, one of the greatest RPGs that even had both a phenomenal story and character plotline. Gist of it is, without spoiling too much, you're tasked with destroying the monstrosity Lavos while hopping between locations and time, acquiring strength. Chrono Trigger is simply the game to look for inspiration and as a model with which to build a great game upon. In fact, this is one of the few titles which is widely considered to be a perfect masterpiece in both gameplay and storytelling. I mean, would MOBAs like Dota or League of Legends be the same without their big ultimates being combined together, like showcased here? MMORPGs have come a long way in their very rich history, but let us not forget the games that started it all.